out our little tricks that we do to try and give him all of his greens first, and then we go to the good stuff. So he tries to hold out. How long has he been here? He's been here for a little over 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So
how long has this been open though?
John and Dawn moved in about 6 years ago in 2019, and they first started out just doing kind of Airbnb stuff with the Riverside cabin, and then they slowly opened up more, guests started requesting like horseback rides or collecting eggs with them, and so on and so forth, and they just like being good hosts, and kind of seeing everybody be happy with the animals, and they just started getting more and more animals, and they built this down here, the camel condo, put up a lot more fences in that pavilion and everything. They've just grown since then.
Yeah.
But really, I'd say the last 4 years they've been open, like with all the animals encounters. And
but the sloth encounters new, right?
Not necessarily. No, we've had Flash for 3 years, and we started doing trickling in some encounters pretty early on. But those encounters looked very different than what they do now. We didn't have this branch. There was just his enclosure, and his enclosure goes up 20 feet.
So
when we first got Flash, he came from a facility where he was just observation only, and so he wasn't used to coming down and getting any pets like this, or being around people like this. So when we would come up there, go into his enclosure, he'd just go to the very top and be like, "Well, see ya, I don't want to interact with you guys. I don't know what you guys are trying to do." But now he's to the point where he does come down and look for interaction.
Now, how old is Zoe?
Zoe's 18 months.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah. And then Dash
just turned a year old.
Okay. When are they full grown?
They're fully matured at 2 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Chloe.
So you can kind of see while he's chewing there that he doesn't have any teeth there in the very front of his mouth, but the first teeth that you come to are 4 really sharp canines that you can kind of see there on the sides. And they are very sharp. And back behind those are all of his molars, and his molars are not flat like ours are, they're all pointed. And they just use those to grind up the food that they're eating. In the wild, they're just eating leaves, and leaves are a lot easier to grind than they are to chomp. So it just works a lot better for them. But if you were to look at the skull or the skeleton of a sloth without knowing what that animal was, you would definitely think they were like top of the food chain, swinging through the trees. And those claws, and their front, he's not really fully extended right now, but his front arms are twice as long as his back legs and as long as his entire body. So that looks like, they'd be using them to swing through the branches, grabbing on, but no, just to see what they are in reality is pretty ironic. I think that the Lord definitely had a sense of humor with creating a lot of the animals that he did. Kind of makes you second guess what the dinosaurs actually looked like in reality compared to what we're looking at the bones.
Hey, buddy. You want some more food?
And on the inside, they kind of are built like trucks. They've got a total of 46 ribs. That's 2 sets of 23, and those bottom 23 ribs go all the way right up against his hip bones. So it's kind of a protective casing for him for all of his internal organs. We have a rib cage, but all of this right here is exposed. And they fall out of the trees that they're staying in about once a week.
And
so
they said they can fall up to like 100 feet.
Yep, they can survive a fall from up to 100 feet in the air and be completely unharmed from it.
Okay.
Yep. And it does happen quite often because, one, their eyesight's really poor, so sometimes when they're going to grab onto a next branch, sometimes they'll grab their own leg, especially if they're scurrying away from something that has startled them, and then they'll fall from that. Another common thing that happens is that if it is a jaguar that has startled, a sloth that's up in the top of the tree, that sloth's first goal is to just get to the very end of that branch away from whatever it is that could potentially be after them. And if they get all the way to the end of that branch may be able to support a 10, 15 pound sloth, but probably not a 35, 40 pound cat as well. So if they both get out there, that branch is probably going to break, which is best case scenario for the sloth because they're built to be able to, withstand those falls, and the cat's not going to be able to. Their goal is going to be landing all 4 feet, and falling from 100 feet up in the air is probably not going to work out too well for them. What do you think, bud? You just taking a nap this morning? You not hungry?
Now, I know that Zoe's snuggle encounter is temporarily down. Will it come back anytime soon?
Who was it that said that it was down?
It's the website.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it will. She's definitely, she's just taking a little break right now from
because I didn't realize when I first did it, I was like, they had the other options, and we're looking at times, and it's her fall break. Or no, you just are starting.
I haven't started. Yeah, I've started.
Okay, so she starts school. And I was like, I just got to get her down here. So I think we're going to come back. But I noticed that there are different time frames. So we're seeing what works. The little kids too, and like just
Yeah.
do a day
Well,
of.
Dash definitely still is having his encounters. Now he is a smaller sloth, so his age range goes down to 8 years old.
Mhm.
You're 8, you can hold him.
Yeah, she's got a brand new baby and I have a 4-year-old, but we would be bringing them to do some of the other stuff.
Yeah.
And then my son is 9. I don't know if he'd be interested. I don't know if Ryder would. We'll see.
Yeah.
If not, me and her can come back in and do it.
We'll send them with the dads.
Yeah. She's just always been obsessed with sloths, and I was like, oh god
Yeah.
dang it.
And you guys are from Ringgold?
Well, yeah, originally, but I live in Ocoee now.
Oh,
yeah.
Want some more?
The green beans.
Oh.
We
I like green beans too.
we had to move to Tennessee. My husband's a police officer for Chattanooga,
Oh, yeah.
and you have to live in Tennessee.
Oh. Yeah.
So we can live in Nashville, but we
Yeah.
didn't live in Ringgold.
Yeah.
But I love Ocoee, so I'm not even complaining.
Yeah. How'd you guys hear about us?
I did.
Is this the place that Josh sent a video about it? Or
I
you sent a
think
video?
I think we both did,
Yeah.
and that's why I was thinking the encounter was newer, but maybe it was one of the other encounters that maybe the
It could have been, no, the Cuddles has been around for a while.
Okay.
The other encounters, not with the sloths, the Fennec Fox encounters are fairly new. And Georgie's encounters, the spider monkey, he's only been doing those for about 3 weeks.
I saw that. Yes, he's little.
Yeah.
Little tiny.
Yeah.
Braden would probably like that.
Yeah. So we, I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, maybe I was thinking of when I got out of school. I don't know, but I was thinking that this didn't open until later. So I've been following y'all on Facebook for a while, but I don't get on much. And then I got on there and I saw it and I was like, all right. And it just happened to be her break. I was like,
Yeah.
no.
Good.
And then once I realized what I was doing, I was like, oh, well, that's not the cuddling one. I'll do that one. Well, it was open tomorrow, not today.
Oh.
And I was at 4:30. I'm like, all right, I gotta work tomorrow night. I was like, I can't do that. I gotta be back. So then I was like, well, we'll just find a day where we can just come up for the day. 'Cause we live too close to really lodge. Because I looked at that too, but y'all were all booked up for like fall and all that. So
Yeah, the fall stays pretty busy.
Yeah.
The lodging options. Yeah.
well, that and it's not too hot to be out with the animals. And
Yeah.
I mean, I know some
This is
people
the
don't.
last spring thing.
I know some people don't care, but I don't want the heat.
Yeah.
Which one?
He
did you
did
not
eat
like?
one of those.
Okay.
He did not want the zucchini.
He did, oh, so Katie's my favorite.
He did not want the
He just
zucchini.
goes through his days with it. Then some days he'll randomly pick zucchini or the squash to be his absolute favorite. He doesn't want anything
Oh,
else.
you are so cute.
They're a lot softer than a lot
Really?
of
Think they're
people.
cute?
It'll be
Yeah,
too,
you
yeah.
don't?
I don't think they're that cute.
I think he's so cute.
I don't. I mean, maybe he's so ugly. He's cute.
They're
Like my
definitely
idea of cute
don't
is like a
like
fluffy
squash.
little kitten.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Her
Want a
idea
carrot
of
or
cute
sweet potato?
must be different.
Oh no.
We'll see
You're
if we
running
get
out of
some
options,
ingredients here.
Yeah.
Let's try the zucchini again. Oh, you mad at me now?
Where's my green beans?
1 second, bud.
They are a lot softer. I thought that they would be more like coarse.
Yeah.
They always look, but that's what I
How you
kind of
expected?
yeah.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
You can't leave.
He goes to the end of that branch several times throughout his encounters. He likes to take mini breaks.
Okay, take a break.
Oh, sorry, you're both here. And he's funny, they're very routine animals.
Mhm.
And Flash is so routine driven that I have even seen him, it's wired in his head that this side of the branch is his eating side. Occasionally he'll eat over
He was
there.
like, I'm done.
But he wants to come over here for his eating, and he'll be in the middle of eating something, like a bowl of rice, which he absolutely loves. Stop, go to the end of that branch to scratch himself, and then come back. I have never, he will eat occasionally over there if he's over there and I'll offer him something, but I have never seen him scratch his side all over here like he usually does. He'll do some really cool acrobats for us over there because he'll let go with one front leg and one back leg and be scratching with that back leg sticking all the way out. So it's really funny to watch,
Aw.
but they are very routine driven animals, and it's just become Flash's routine that every morning around 10 o'clock he comes down and he's expecting his breakfast. So that's what time we started basing his encounters around, was what time he wanted to come down to interact. So around 9:30 when I get here in the morning, I just open up that door right away and start chopping up everybody's
And he comes out on
veggies,
his
yeah,
own?
and getting everybody's breakfast ready. And he starts to hear that, and if he's hungry, he'll just start to come down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And he just hooks onto that door frame and then hooks right back out onto that branch there. And he's got a branch pretty close there in his enclosure where he can you just grab from that onto
Yeah.
the door frame. And a lot of people don't believe us when we say that because it's kind of hard to believe.
Yeah.
But it's really cool to actually watch. And I think you guys are the only encounter this morning, so you get to see him actually go back up into his enclosure.
So smart. So, I know that you said he lived a different life before
Mhm.
he came here. So, does he let y'all hold him and stuff,
No.
or he's just not?
Yeah, we have never held Flash. He was not raised in the same way that Zoe and Dash were.
Mhm.
They were raised to be ambassador sloths, which means that they meet two requirements. They genuinely enjoy and actively seek human interaction. I like to think that Flash enjoys his time with us down here,
But you're really
he's
just
really
feeding
just
him.
coming down for his food. You know,
Yeah.
if we were to ever hold Flash, that would be completely his decision. He would have to be the one to climb onto us.
Mhm.
He's never shown interest in doing that, so I don't know if it'll ever happen, but
Yeah.
if it ever does, it'd be really cool. But sloths naturally are born very solitary animals.
Mhm.
That's just hardwired into them. You know, for a lot of other groups of animals, you may have a name, like a flock or a gander or a herd. There's no name like that for a group of sloths because it just doesn't exist. If you ever see two sloths in the same tree, they're definitely not going to be snuggled up right next to each other unless they're mating, and they're just going to be in opposite sides.
They
or
probably just can't
passing
see each other.
through. Yeah. But they definitely don't want to be, you know, snuggled up next to somebody. And naturally, a sloth is not going to seek out somebody to just be holding on to. So the behavior of Zoe and Dash is very unnatural for sloths. And a
That's how
lot
they
of
were raised,
time and work and effort went into them. Like I said, they're routine animals. And so it just became their routine from the breeder that we got Dash and Zoe from, that every day around the same time, for the same amounts of time, that breeder would go in there and hold that baby and then give that baby right back to mom. So mom's never stressed, baby's never stressed, and it's always just something like, oh, here he's coming, I'm ready to be held.
Yeah.
Because that's just always part of their life. And if that's all that they know, that's just what's, that's what's normal for them. And they do like to stick to the same type of schedule. So, with Dash, he's on a very strict schedule for an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon. And if he's not booked for anything in the morning, I still try to go in and hold him for a certain amount of time just to keep him on that schedule and keep him looking forward to those encounters, because he would hold on to somebody all day, every day if he was allowed to do it.
Yeah.
But if that was just his life, he just got to be held all
She'd
the
just
time.
be like, just let me.
Yeah.
Let's just walk around. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, he would just think that was, that's the life, that's what happens every day. But he knows that he only gets an encounter in the morning and in the afternoon. So every time when it's starting to get closer to that encounter time, he's getting a little bit more antsy. He's uncovering himself over that blanket. He's peering out the side of the basket, reaching for us, because he's knowing that it's about to happen. And so we like to keep it that way because they're extra snuggly when they finally get hold of somebody. They're like, I only get it for so long.
Yeah.
And then, and Zoe does the same thing when we go to put her back into her enclosure. I have to walk out fairly quickly, because if I don't, I stand in there, she'll start to climb through the branches, reaching out, and they do make a little noise. They'll go, hers is more like a whisper. When she was a baby, she was a lot more adamant about it, and Dash is still in that phase, so I'm going to be sad when he starts to whisper at us too, but it's really cute to hear those noises.
Now, obviously they're solitary, but because of the way Dash and Zoe were raised, do they like to be around each other at all, or?
No, they haven't been around each other yet. That is our future plans, because we got them both from the same facility, and so they were raised around a lot of other sloths.
Are
and
they
it could be more
related?
natural. They're not.
They're
No,
not.
he's been doing it for over 30 years and has his sloths dropped all the way back from his original sloths, and so he knows they are completely unrelated. So if we wanted to in the future, we could breed them. We don't have any plans to right now. It's a possibility, but we don't have any definites. But yeah.
Is his eyes closed? No.
He
So
said,
they
no,
close
I'm awake. They do, yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of times, scientists used to think that sloths actually slept a lot more than they actually do, because, from looking at him from the back, you'd think he was sleeping, but in reality, his eyes are open.
Yeah.
And kind of another comfortable position for a sloth to be in the wild, because they've got to be real slow and not move around a whole lot during the day, because other things could potentially see them and grab a hold of them like a jaguar. Is that they'll be up real close to that branch with their head tucked in between their front legs, and so it looks like they're sleeping, but they're actually awake and aware of what's going on.
So they would blend in with a branch.
They would, yeah, because in the wild they've got a lot of that moss and algae and bacteria and fungus all over their backs. It's an entire ecosystem that they rely on. Yeah.
That they're dirty in the wild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they rely on that ecosystem not only for camouflage, but that's actually the process in which they digest their food. There's a very specific type of moth that lives in that ecosystem that produces the bacteria that the sloth will use to digest their food. And if they didn't have those moths, that bacteria is sensitive to temperature changes. And if the temperature dropped out in the wild, that bacteria is wiped out, then they have no more bacteria to digest their food. So it's really important that every time they go to the bathroom, they go down to the base of the tree to go to the bathroom, because if they didn't, those moths would not have a place to repopulate. They have to go down there and have the dung pile of the sloth. And then the next week, the sloth will go back to the same spot because the moths need to have somewhere to crawl up onto.
Oh, wow.
They
So
can't
it's like
fly
a
around
whole-
like other moths can, yeah.
Huh, it's like a whole thing. So obviously you would think they're slowing, so they stay in the same area.
For the most part, yeah. Some, there's still research ongoing about sloths. Some sources will say that a sloth could stay in the same tree that they're born in for the rest of their lives and be completely content as long as they have enough. In the wild, we're not exactly sure. There's not been any scientists that have been able to track one singular sloth from birth until geriatrics. A lot of times their lives are taken prematurely by electrocution, using a power line to try to cross the roadway. That does happen quite often. But in captivity, the oldest sloth that we know of that was born and raised here is actually in Germany, and he passed away last year at the age of 54.
Wow.
Yeah. Now we expect it to be about half, a little less than half of that in the wild.
And that's
just due
pretty
to-
much with all animals.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anything that you take from their natural habitat and bring into a controlled environment where you
Yeah.
feed them every day, you take care of them and they have everything just right, they're going to live
Yeah,
longer.
because even outside cats have like half the lifespan
Yeah,
of it.
exactly.
So I went on a cruise in January and we went to Honduras, and Honduras has sloths. Now I asked a couple, of course I didn't see any, but I asked two of the ladies that lived there. One of them said she'd never seen one in the wild, and the other one said she had. And I was like, oh, look out, but I didn't see any.
Yeah. Now, a lot of times people will go down there. Now, thankfully, the Conservancy Agency has been putting a stop to this more recently, but before the Conservancy Agency started really cracking down, a lot of people will go down there to Honduras. Rotan, Honduras is a
Yeah, that's
popular spot where cruise ships will
I
go
loved it,
and
though.
go through there.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful area. And a lot of people will be on their cruise and looking at the excursions and see, oh my gosh, you can hold a sloth, I want to do that. And then they go down there and have that excursion without putting too much thought behind it.
Well, I was telling her about you guys and how y'all work everything around the animals, and like you said, you're not forcing him
Exactly.
if he doesn't want to.
Yeah.
I was like, they only do like a certain amount, they only do 2 people at a time, 2 encounters in the morning. Like I looked it up,
Yeah.
and I want to swim with the dolphin so bad, but I refuse to
Because
put
you
my
just never
money
know.
toward.
Yeah.
I mean, we've gone on cruises where we've gone to the beach and the dolphin encounter has been like right beside us in Cancun where we went.
Yeah.
And I would love for my children to experience that. I would love to, but I can't in good
Yeah.
faith put my
Yeah.
money toward that. Just like I won't go to SeaWorld.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just,
And that's the best way to do it too, because those places that are doing, holding wild sloths where that's not, naturally, they're not, like you said, they're not wanting to be held by people. They've got that whole really sensitive organism that lives on their back, that whole ecosystem, that if it's messed up, even just enough where they can't get that bacteria that they need to digest their food, their life expectancy is cut down
well,
way
see,
short.
and the dolphins are kept in captivity in the ocean, but in a captivity.
yeah.
So
And that's
they're
the
just
same
going
way with
out
the
there.
sloths.
Okay.
It's the
Yeah,
same way with
that's
the
what-
sloths is that they'll move them to a certain tree or certain area where they've either got fences and they label it as a sanctuary, or they put them in the same tree where they can't, there's, a long distance before you get to any other tree, so they're not gonna travel that. And they'll keep them there in the same spot, and they'll use those same sloths over and over and over and over again. And those first several encounters that they did with those animals were not how they were that a lot of people have.
Yeah.
Where they're just kind of laying there, they're not really doing a whole lot, because sloths don't have a whole lot of energy. And after they use up all those energy reserves trying to get away from you, they don't have any means left to try to fight
Well, I
for
mean, and
themselves.
just like you think about it with newborn babies, you wear them out just by holding them
Yeah.
too much and handling them too
Yeah.
much. The one thing we did do in Grand Cayman is we went out to the middle of the ocean, not the middle, but a sandbar, and we
Yeah.
did feed like wild stingrays.
Oh, yeah.
They
Yeah.
come there of their own free
Exactly.
will because you have food.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel bad about that,
Yeah.
but I was like, I cannot.
And
feed
see,
a
that's the
dolphin.
kind of mindset that a lot more people need to have, or just thinking through, how is this affecting, things in the
Yeah.
long term or things in the grand scheme
Because
of
if you
things.
stop putting your money toward that, then
Yeah,
they,
exactly. Yeah.
or
But
demand better.
thankfully, thankfully the Conservancy Agency for Sloths down there, where they're native in South America, have been really cracking down and enforcing a lot more rules and regulations against holding these guys, because it is extremely detrimental for them, which is why we have the sloths here. You know, John and Donna, the owners, experienced something pretty similar, where they participated in an event like that, and then it wasn't until a year later when they got back, you know, home and everything and started doing more research into it, that they realized that sloth life expectancy is roughly 2.5 weeks after an event like that.
Really?
It is extremely short, because if that bacteria and everything is wiped off of their system, which a lot of times if you're able to hold a sloth down there, you don't see all of that moss and algae because it's been stripped of them. They have been dumped and then, you know, scrubbed all of that off. And that's how they're digesting their food. And if the weather drops, the temperature drops, that bacteria is wiped out, then it's, you know, roughly 2.5 weeks that it takes for a sloth to starve. And that sloth can pass with a full belly of food, but passive starvation because they can't digest any of it.
So in that sense, do you think that, obviously they're not like really taking care of the sloth there, but are they going through lots of sloths in that area, or are they just like
Possibly.
that? Maybe
Yeah.
that one is, or
Yeah,
two
and I
is
can't-
able to.
I can't speak for all of them. You know, obviously there are some places that do it the right way, where they'll rescue, you know, young sloths from a young age and raise them up around people, be sure that they keep all of that ecosystem and everything on there. So I'm sure there's been places that have done it the right way, but the vast majority of the ones that, you know, the natives are just trying to make a
you're
quick
just
buck.
down there and they'll take anybody, any money.
And you know, there's the same thing with the monkeys. The monkeys go through a similar thing like that, where they'll be trained from a young age to be around people, and so they'll tolerate it, but you know, the practices that go behind it, you're not exactly sure all the time about how those animals are treated. Let's see if we can entice him just a little bit with some rice over here, because that's probably what he's holding out for.
He's like, I want them to.
Yeah, you hear me moving around over here, buddy.
I'll start this.
I know what's coming.
Will he eat out of the bowl, or?
Yep.
Now when he's in his encounter, will he like come down and eat out of the bowl, or do you have somewhere where you set it up high, or?
No, he'll come down. Yeah, his dishes are out there, that black thing that is right there. Those are where his food and water dishes are at. And even, you know, if he decides that he comes down in the morning and he doesn't want to eat anything first thing in the morning, our animals don't have to, you know, perform for their food. And so whatever we would have fed him in here would just go into his dish, and he can get it, you know, later throughout the day whenever he feels like it. Now that doesn't usually happen. Usually he always, you know, eats pretty good for us in the mornings.
Yeah.
But if it ever were to not be as hungry, then we always still put his food in there. Hey, bud. Hey, Flash. So since their eyesight is so poor, their sense of smell and sense of hearing are really heightened. And so he can smell this. He can smell it before I even brought it over here. But I was getting this ready, and a lot of times he'll already come to the end of the branch, you know, looking for it.
Yeah.
Because this is probably his favorite food of choice, is this rice here. It's not something that he necessarily needs, but it's just kind of extra protein for him, because I've got, it's a really high quality dog food that's been soaked in water and then mixed into it, so our young ones get their protein through that. He gets 2 hard-boiled eggs a week for his protein, and that's all he needs. One boiled egg has 16 grams of protein in it, and that's, you know, 2 of those are all that he needs, so. This is just kind of extra for him, but the extra protein that he gets, he'll just urinate out. So he can extend all the way down just by thinking about his 2 back feet. And if you guys want to hold this bowl,
You hold it.
you can get all the way real up close to him like that. And those makes for some really good pictures too, if you guys want me to take any pictures
You
for
can take pictures of her because she loves.
Okay, do you have
I
a
did
phone
this for her.
connected to-
Yes. I mean, they're cute, but I didn't. That little thing just does not.
I know.
He's like,
he
I
just
got
back and
somewhere
forth,
to
back
go.
and forth, and back and forth. And anytime I crack this door, his first response is to shoot out.
Like a little puppy.
Yeah.
All right. I don't think the flash is on today. Just.
Is it good?
Oh.
Did you want to stand in it too? Stand this on this side of it. Either way, he's not gonna move. That looks so scary.
Oh, okay.
He's just looking at you.
Hi.
But you can see that leather there on his paw pads is actually really sensitive for him. And that kind of allows them to know what they're grabbing a hold of without even really seeing it. That kind of sensory for them, they can pick up what that is. But he is a two-toed sloth. It makes more sense to say two-fingered as it is on the front that he's got the two. All sloths have 3 claws on the back feet, and it's the front where they differ. But he smells that. I chopped up some of the spinach in there for him because he's not been wanting to eat as much spinach recently.
And he's gonna pick around it.
Yeah, he's gonna try for sure. I think I've mixed it in there pretty good though. Let's see.
You have to eat your greens.
Oh, flash turned on. I think it's because I zoomed in.
I just didn't want it to bother him, so.
But you can take all the pictures you want to.
Oh, what is that noise out here?
That's Rio. She's
The
our-
bird.
Yes.
Okay.
A little green.
Chloe hates birds.
Green Amazon.
She's scared of birds.
She'll have a full-blown conversation with you.
He's holding my hand.
Oh,
He
he's
just
like,
likes to
"Yeah,
make
roll."
sure that nobody's gonna take
Okay,
it
I'm not
away.
gonna take it away from you. I promise.
But a sloth has the ability to actually withstand all of their body weight hanging by just one claw from the moment that they're born. So comparatively, their grip strength is about 3 times stronger than a person's is. They can, their grip is opposite to ours, whereas open-handed for us is a relaxed state. It's not taking any energy for me to do this. But to close my fist and squeeze or try to hold on to a branch, that's more difficult. That's a stressful state for us. For them, clamp down like this, holding on around the branch is their relaxed state. And opening up those claws to reach for the next branch or to let go is what's more strenuous for them to do. So that's why they're able to just hold on like that for such long periods of time and be completely unfazed from it. Yeah. And it's kind of like a coat hanger too.
That's
Once
what I was
they-
thinking,
Yeah, once
yeah.
they grip onto that, they're gonna continue hanging there. And it's for that reason that if a sloth were to actually pass away, holding onto the branch of a tree like that, they would continue to hang it until something either rotted or knocked them off of that branch.
Alright, Chloe, say cheese. Oh, yeah, when you zoom in, it does. do
Yeah.
that.
It's weird when we see you do that. Zoe's just snoozing in there.
So
Okay,
how,
so Zoe's and
Zoe and Flash.
Zoe's in there,
Where's-
Flash is in there. Dash has stayed up at the main house for the first
Oh.
year of his life because when we first get them when they're 5 months old, they're only like 2 pounds and they need round the clock, you know, attention and everything. So he has an enclosure up there actually in the owner's bedroom. That whole basket that he likes to stay and take naps in will go into that. And he's got branches and limbs right above him that he can climb if he wants to. But they're very spoiled. Dash and Zoe were raised very differently from Flash, and so they would rather be in a hammock or in a basket or something like that rather than holding on to the branch.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he stays up there. He did just turn a year old, and so he is going to be starting to spend some nights down here pretty soon. We've got a smaller, it's kind of like it's a big bird cage that we put that whole basket into, and we're eventually going to start putting that into
Where are you
Zoe's
going?
enclosure.
I mean,
Yeah, and you can actually see the lower part of his spine there around his hips actually has 3 extra vertebrae in it that allows him to twist his spine all the way back to look back behind him. Whereas a 3-toed sloth actually has 3 extra vertebrae in their cervical spine and their neck that allows them to twist their neck back to be able to look.
unless he knows, but.
Yeah, he smells like.
he left all the greens.
Oh, my
I do not want that.
Smart boy.
Yeah, he is. He's a very picky boy too.
Okay.
He's like, I don't want it.
You ate. That's
Here, I'll put just a little bit more rice in it that way.
So when y'all do the little cuddles with Dash, is it down here or?
It is,
Okay.
yep. Yeah, we just bring him down. He comes down during the day. I just haven't went up to get him just yet because he didn't have any first thing this morning. But yeah, we bring him down to the basket and he'll stay in that little big basket with just a towel draped over top of it as long as he can't see anybody or hear anybody. But as soon as he does, he's uncovering that himself and reaching out trying to get somebody to come pick him up. So, yeah.
I know, baby.
I know.
Okay, bud. Are you full now? You sleeping? Oh my God, give me that green stuff again.
I put the better stuff on top. You wanna come back over here? You want to eat right here? Here we go.
Yes, I'll eat some more.
You wanna hold this again? have to do it. And those claws really only have that one motion to just open and close. And a lot of times when he's really eager and really hungry, he'll be reaching out for people, trying to get them to give him a veggie. And some people will try to give him that veggie, but
they
he'll
can't.
he'll clamp down around and be like, how do
What do I do now?
Yeah. Those claws really work best for, like, in the wild, if he was in that position, he would be reaching down trying to grab a branch that's lower than him and pull it into him and then pick off the leaves on that branch. So those claws really only work to just pull, a big thing towards them, and then they can pluck off those leaves. And in the wild, they would be eating about 95% leaf material, and those would be the leaves of the Cecropia trees. So those only naturally grow in Central and South America and not in North America. So for that reason, it's really difficult to keep a three-toed sloth in captivity because they can really only eat those leaves. The two-toed, obviously, we're feeding him stuff that he would not have access to in the wild, but they do really well on that diet. And obviously, research has shown that they can live pretty long, healthy lives as long as you give them all the right requirements and make sure that everything is met that they need nutritionally.
Yeah.
Does that feel yummy?
Flash and flash.
Oh,
Oh,
there you go.
So when he's turned all the way upside down like that and is still continuing to eat, that valve, he only has a one-way valve that allows food to go into his stomach and not back out. So it's just a one-way track, one
So right now it
in one
can't go
way, out the other. Yeah. So it is going in and not back out. So we have two-way valves that allow us to vomit. So if I was to try to do a handstand and eat like that, it'd probably go pretty rough for me and probably be trying to come back out on me. But it works out well for them because it's just the one way. Now, occasionally it can be kind of dangerous for them because if they eat something that does not sit right with them, they are stuck with that for approximately another 30 days until that reaches the end of his tract.
wow.
And that is about how long it takes for a sloth to digest his food. And that's why they only get the urge about once a week to go to the bathroom.
And you said when they go, it's like a big go.
It is, yeah. It's about 30% of their body weight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yep, it is a massive
And how much
amount.
does he weigh?
He's about 15 pounds. Of course, it varies. Right before he goes to the bathroom, he can get to be up to 17 pounds.
Yeah.
And then drop down quite a bit. So it kind of just varies throughout the weeks.
But at least you're not having to clean up them every
That
day.
is true. But when we do, it is, and
Yeah.
since it's
Job.
been in there all week, it has become very putrid.
Oh, I bet.
So yeah, when I could just step in here in the morning and I know somebody has gone.
Yeah. Now, so in the wild where they have to go back down and get, they don't have to do that in captivity?
What?
So you don't have to, like, they don't have to stay around their poop and go back down to?
They do. That is still hardwired into them. That is
Okay.
something that they're supposed to do. Even though he doesn't have any of that on his back, the Lord placed that into their minds that you are supposed to do this every time you have to go to the bathroom. Because if they didn't, if, he is, in captivity, but naturally they're going to be in the rainforest. And if they didn't have that hardwired into them to go down to the same spot every time, they would not be able to survive. The species would cease to exist. Because they just would not be able to keep those moths on their back.
Do Zoe and Dash have that instinct?
They do. They use it, and you can see in Flash's enclosure, he's got two trees that go down to the base of the floor, but we only have shavings around one of those trees because that is the only tree he has ever used and will ever use to go to the bathroom. He has the ability to use either one, but he only will go to the same one and same
Just like
spot
he likes
every
to
time.
eat down here.
Exactly.
Times
Yeah.
down here.
Yep.
Oh, dumping you.
And
Basically,
some
that's
scientists
right.
like to speculate different reasons for why they could go to the same spot every time. Some say that, well, maybe they're just creatures of habit and they like to do the same thing every time. Or maybe they're trying to fertilize their own tree to be sure that has enough nutrients for them. But if they're in the tops of the trees going to the bathroom, that's still going to be falling onto their root system and still fertilizing that tree. But what makes the most sense and what we try to believe in is that sloth-moth symbiotic relationship. Because if they didn't do that, it would not work out the same for them.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a symbiotic relationship anymore because they wouldn't have any more moths on them. So, and it does benefit the moths too because the moths will actually feed off of the moss and algae that's growing on their backs. And then obviously the sloth will lick up the bacteria that those moths are producing, as well as eating some of those moths. And that's their protein source in the wild. So obviously he's not going to get bulled eggs out in the wild.
Yeah.
If he was to come across a really small bird's nest that had some really young baby birds in it, they would eat something like that. or a lizard or something
You're
if
okay
it
with
was
that?
right on the branch,
No,
right
it
up the side.
I don't like them.
And so some bigger organizations or some breeders will opt to feed their sloth pinkies, the little
Oh,
mice
yeah.
that
Oh, yeah,
have not,
yeah.
you know, have
I was
not-
thinking you meant birds, but my husband has a snake, so he
Oh,
feeds
so
it. But he eats full-grown rats now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
still
if
not
it
a
was,
fan.
you know, if it was a requirement, if he needed that as his form of protein, we would obviously do it, but they can get it from different ways. We do, the young ones get the dog food and the rice mixture, and then after they get about 2 years old, Zoe's right on the verge, she's still getting that rice mixture quite a bit, but she's also getting the boiled egg and slowly transferring her over onto that, so, yeah.
Yeah. Now, how much water do they drink?
Not a
a day?
whole lot.
Do
They
they,
get-
do they,
yeah, they
do
get a
they
lot.
pee daily or?
No, just the once a week.
Oh,
And
really?
they get,
When they poop? Or?
yeah, well, it's separate, you know, ways.
Yeah.
It's-
Oh, obviously, but like,
same-
yeah.
Same trip, yeah.
Okay, so they could be pretty clean for a while.
Yeah.
Especially not out in the wild with all the algae and stuff on them.
Yeah. And they are very clean animals. I mean, they're probably the cleanest animal we have on the farm. Sloths don't have any natural scent glands, musk glands, odor, anything like that to them. So in the rainforest, with having all that moss and algae on their backs, they smell like the rest of the rainforest.
Mhm.
And that's what makes actually snakes really an unlikely thing to get a hold of the sloth, because if they you know, come across a sloth, it's going to be purely by happenstance.
Mhm.
Because sloths snakes hunt through sense of smell and temperature variations. And
Because they
since a
can't see
sloth
anything.
cannot maintain their own body temperature, his temperature is 79, which is what it is in here right now. And it will stay it'll fluctuate with the rainforest. And then they don't have a natural odor to them. They smell just like the rest of it. So it's really unlikely that a snake would find a sloth. The harpy eagle is definitely the most successful thing that could grab a hold of one, because they tend to stay up at the very tippy tops of those trees or out on the very end of the branches, because that's where the most fresher new leaves are growing, the little baby leaves, and those don't have as much cellulose and are a lot easier to digest for the sloths. So they'll try to be eating those, and if they're up in the very tops of those trees where there's not as much foliage, yeah. And those eagles are massive. The harpy eagles have an extremely big wingspan.
So they could get a full
Yeah.
grown.
Yeah, and the sloths don't really have much, you know, that they
Yeah.
can do after that.
Defense.
Yeah, you know, if it was to be a jaguar or something that was on the top side of that branch and they're on the bottom side, they would probably try to bite or try to, you know, do things like that. They can have a little bit of defense like that, but to a harpy eagle, it's essentially pointless.
That is so cute. He said, alright, I'm full. I'm ready for bed.
Got my rice.
It is right at about time for us to finish up, but it is really cool to actually see how he goes back into his enclosure, because they move a lot quicker than like Zootopia portrays them to me. It's like painfully slow to watch, you know, Zootopia, how slow that sloth is, but if he's on a mission and he's got somewhere that he wants to be, aka his hammock or outside, he'll get there pretty quickly. I'm gonna set up this branch out here, that way if he wants to go outside, he can. He will either decide to go straight up to his hammock or make his way out here. And as he starts to come through the doorway, you guys are welcome to step in if you're here. It's kind of cool to either get a video or some pictures of him coming through the door frame. So I'll come out here if you want to step in. You can watch him. It's really cool. He does it pretty quickly. Don't mind Kevin. He doesn't die, I promise.
Yeah.
So he does fine, even if it's 95 degrees here. I mean, I know that it's temperature, but if they were in.
Yeah, 95 is a little bit high.
Yeah.
I know their sweet spot for that bacteria is about 75 to 85 degrees. But if it starts to drop much below that 75-degree mark, that bacteria really starts to suffer.
Now, when I was in Honduras, it was during the week that it snowed really bad here, and it was like 40 degrees when we got back to Tampa. And everywhere we were having the cold.
Oh, was it cold
Yeah,
too?
I mean, it was colder than, like that last day, we couldn't even get in the water.
Yeah.
So it would have been colder.
Yeah.
I just don't remember what the temperatures were.
Yeah. So it does fluctuate a lot there in the rainforest, I think more than people realize.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why they depend on those moths.
Did you see that frog? Yeah.
Oh, is there from?
Yeah, there's a frog.
Yeah, we've got a lot of those little suckers around everywhere. They're
I
very loud.
don't think we care.
But, yeah, it does fluctuate a lot, and that's why they depend on those moths, because their temperature will drop with the outside conditions as well. And it's not so much that we worry about hypothermia, it's that we worry about that bacteria deteriorating. And if that happens, For a wild sloth, it's not that big of an issue as long as they have that established ecosystem on their back and they've got those moths on there. But in captivity, if something like that were to happen, if we left the door cracked and it was snowing outside and dropping in the enclosure, that would be extremely bad news for the sloth.